If you plan to off-road your Freelander 2, or you already have been off-roading your Freelander 2, then take a great deal of care over the front radiator and the aircon condenser that sits at the front of your car. You see, if I get permission from people, I'm going to fire up a load of images on screen, and what you'll see is probably a mix of images, if I've got permission, of people's front radiators and aircon condensers that are all blocked up. And this is especially true if you plan to go to the infamous Salisbury Plain, because the mud out there is more like clay. As you can imagine with the Freelander 2, when you hit that really wet, sloppy mud, or even just a whole bunch of water, if it's got a whole bunch of junk and God knows what in the bottom of it, as the water goes through the front of the car, the radiators and condensers are going to be acting pretty much like sieves, in the fact of you're going to have dirty stuff go in the front, and it's almost going to be sieved out to be lovely clean stuff that drops out the kind of middle-ish of the car or wherever it drops out of. But the problem with that is that all the junk is going to be stuck to the front of your radiator and the aircon condenser. When you go driving, you might not notice this straight away because it takes a lot to really affect the cooling on these cars, that over time the radiator blocks up, the temperature builds, and that's obviously where your heat problems can come from a lot of the time. Not only that, if you don't clean it straight away, the radiator in particular is going to get really hot, so eventually all that rubbish or clay or mud, whatever it might be, is going to bake on harder and harder, which is going to make your life harder in the long run. So if you do go out playing with your Freelander 2, I've got two top tips for you basically. One being that if you can't get to the radiator particularly easy, poke a hose pipe on a really low soft setting just through the front of the car and just rinse it off, and then maybe kind of rinse it off down the back here just to get the worst of it out the way with. But ultimately, and I've done a video on how to remove the front bumper and wheel arch linings of the Freelander 2, so you can go and watch that, but just take the time to remove the front bumper. If you can, remove the radiator once in a while and properly give it a clean and flush out, but at least remove the front bumper, give the condenser a good old rinse off, the same as the radiator, and then the car will be much happier. It can cool itself down sufficiently enough, and the car will just love you that little bit more. One point I just want to add to that if you've got the front bumper off, then whatever you do, don't use anything too forceful on the fins, because what you don't want to do is close up the fins, and then that stops the radiator from doing radiating. Just water, soft setting. I mean, even before you get to water, get a nice soft brush or anything and just try and brush the radiator, get the worst of the mud off. But if you can't brush it off, water, soft setting, patience, and just give it a good old rinse down. Don't go at it too gung-ho, and definitely don't use a power wash on any sort of hard setting and spray directly at the radiator or aircon condenser, because they both won't be your friend for very long.